What would you choose? Safety without freedom or freedom with risk? Imagine waking up every day knowing you are protected, accepted, and secure, but only because you agreed to stay silent. Only because you decided not to question, not to resist, not to stand up. You are safe, but are you truly alive? Now imagine the opposite. You speak the truth. You defend your values. You refuse to bow to fear. It costs you comfort. It may cost you approval. It might even cost you everything. But when you look in the mirror, you recognize the person staring back at you. Throughout history, the greatest turning points were not created by people who chose comfort. They were created by those who chose courage, those who decided that dignity was worth more than safety. So before we begin, ask yourself one honest question. Are you living on your feet or on your knees? Let's talk about what that truly means. There comes a moment in life when a person must choose to stand tall with dignity or to survive by sacrificing honor. That choice does not always appear in the form of great wars or dramatic events. Sometimes it comes in small, quiet decisions, when we must choose between honesty and comfort, between truth and acceptance, between principles and personal gain. Pericles' quote is not merely bold words, but a powerful principle about human dignity and courage. It is better to die on your feet than to live on your knees. This sentence resonates deeply because it speaks to the very core of human freedom. Standing is not simply about posture, it is about inner strength. It symbolizes the courage to defend what we believe in, even when pressure surrounds us from every direction. Living on your knees does not necessarily mean physically kneeling. It represents surrendering to fear, bowing to threats, and accepting injustice for the sake of safety. When someone constantly silences their conscience just to feel secure, little by little they lose themselves. They may still be breathing, but their spirit is imprisoned. On the other hand, standing means accepting risk. It means being ready to face the consequences of doing what is right. Not everyone has the courage to do that, because standing firm can sometimes leave you alone. Yet it is in that solitude that true character is tested and formed. Pericles' quote reminds us that the quality of life is not measured by its length, but the strength of our convictions. It is better to live briefly with honor than to live long without freedom. In the end, what makes life meaningful is not mere safety, but the courage to remain upright in truth. To stand on your feet is to claim ownership of your values. It is the refusal to compromise your principles for temporary comfort. Standing means having the strength to say no when the world pressures you to say yes. It means choosing integrity over approval and truth over convenience. It is an inner posture of strength, even when the body trembles and the heart feels afraid. This quote also challenges our understanding of fear. Fear often whispers that safety is everything. It convinces us that survival, no matter the cost, is the ultimate goal. But Pericles suggests otherwise. He implies that a life stripped of honor, silenced by oppression, and controlled by fear is a life diminished. There is something deeply human about wanting to live with pride. When we stand, we affirm our worth. We declare that our values are not for sale, and our freedom is not negotiable. Even if standing brings struggle, even if it invites hardship, it preserves something far more valuable, our identity. That is why this quote continues to inspire. It calls us not to recklessness, but to bravery. It invites us to examine our lives and ask, are we standing firmly in our truth, or are we slowly kneeling to the pressures around us? Living on your knees does not necessarily mean physically kneeling before someone. It is a symbol of surrender. Surrender to fear, to pressure, to systems that demand silence instead of truth. It happens when a person chooses comfort over conviction, safety over integrity, and approval over authenticity. At first, the compromise may seem small, almost harmless. But over time, those small compromises begin to shape a life defined by hesitation and quiet submission. When someone constantly suppresses their conscience just to avoid conflict or rejection, they slowly lose touch with who they truly are. The voice inside becomes quieter. The courage that once burned brightly begins to fade. They may appear successful, secure, or accepted by society, yet inside they feel confined. They are breathing, but not truly living. Living on your knees creates an invisible prison. There may be no chains, no walls, no visible restraints, yet fear becomes the cage. The fear of losing opportunities, the fear of standing alone, the fear of being judged or rejected. And so, many people choose to bow, believing that submission guarantees peace. But the peace gained through surrender is often fragile and temporary. Over time, this kind of life breeds regret, because deep within every human being is a desire for authenticity, for self-respect, for the freedom to stand tall without apology. When that desire is ignored, dissatisfaction quietly grows. To live on your knees is to trade long-term meaning for short-term comfort. And while it may protect the body, it slowly weakens the spirit. On the other hand, standing means accepting risk. It means understanding that doing what is right does not always guarantee comfort or applause. In fact, standing firm often invites resistance. It may cost you popularity, opportunities, or even relationships. Yet, despite these risks, standing preserves something far more valuable: your self-respect. To stand is to choose courage over convenience. It is the decision to remain faithful to your principles, even when compromise seems easier. There are moments in life when silence feels safer, when blending in feels wiser, and when speaking up feels dangerous. But standing requires you to rise above that fear and act in alignment with your values. Not everyone will understand your choice. Some may criticize you. Others may distance themselves. Standing can feel lonely, especially when you are the only one refusing to bow. But it is in those lonely moments that true character is revealed. Integrity is not proven when everyone agrees with you. It is proven when you remain firm despite opposition. Standing also builds inner strength. Every time you choose truth over fear, your confidence deepens. Every time you resist injustice, your spirit grows stronger. Over time, what once felt terrifying becomes empowering. You realize that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. In the end, standing may not always change the world immediately, but it will change you. And sometimes that transformation is the beginning of something far greater. Pericles reminds us that the true measure of life is not how long we live, but how we live. A long life without dignity is empty, while a shorter life lived with honor can echo through generations. History rarely remembers those who chose comfort over conviction. It remembers those who stood firm when it would have been easier to kneel. When we look back at our own lives one day, the question will not be how safe we played it. The real question will be whether we remained faithful to ourselves. Did we protect our values when they were challenged? Did we defend what was right when it was unpopular? Did we stand when standing felt impossible? Living with courage does not mean seeking danger or rejecting wisdom. It means refusing to let fear dictate our identity. It means understanding that freedom, integrity, and dignity are worth protecting, even when the cost feels high. Because once dignity is surrendered, reclaiming it becomes far more difficult. Every generation faces its own pressures, its own forms of intimidation, its own subtle invitations to kneel. But each individual still holds the power to choose, to stand tall, to remain grounded in truth, to live with meaning rather than mere survival. In the end, what makes life powerful is not comfort, but courage, not submission, but conviction. And perhaps that is the timeless message of this quote. It is better to stand for something with honor than to live for nothing in fear.